The man who stops explaining himself has already won. Not because he's confident or disciplined, but because he looked at himself when he was explaining and he didn't like what he saw. There is a specific kind of man who explains. Something happens. She goes cold. A friend misreads his silence, or someone gets the wrong impressions and he reaches for words the way other men reach for weapon. He genuinely believes that if he explains clearly enough, the other person will understand. And once they understand, they will come back. What's actually happening here? It doesn't need them to understand. It needs them to return. The explanation isn't communication, it's retrieval. And underneath it is a question he never asks himself. Why is this person's return worth this much to me? When you watch a man explain, really watch him. You're watching something specific. You're watching him negotiate his own value in real time. He's building a case for himself to someone who's already decided. That's the tell. It reveals that his internal state is still determined by external perception. He can't know what he is unless someone else confirms it. So when someone withdraws, even slightly, the system breaks. And the explanation is the repair attempt. This isn't insecurity in the crude sense. It's more specific than that. It's outsourced self-knowledge. The man doesn't have a stable internal reference for what he is. So he keeps asking, not with his mouth, not necessarily, but with his behavior. The explaining is the asking. People who stop explaining, people assume they are arrogant, cold, or closed off. And that reading is wrong. And it's wrong in a specific way. What is done is to move the authority. The function of explaining was to confirm his position, to get the external signal that he is understood and that he is still acceptable, that the relationship is still intact. When he stops, he is not removing the need, he's relocated it. He no longer needs you to confirm what he already knows about himself. That's what people feel when they're around him. They cannot name it. They call it confidence. They call it arrogance. They call it mystery. What it actually is a man whose internal reading is no longer for sale. There is a misunderstanding worth addressing. Silence is not the same thing as containment. Some men go quiet out of stubbornness, avoidance, shame. That's not this. Containment is the absence of the need to discharge. Most men discharge constantly. Every reaction, every explanation, every attempt to correct perception. It's pressure leaving the system because the system can't hold it. A contained man holds it, not because he's suppressing, but the pressure doesn't build in the same way. The difference is structural. The first man is quiet because speech cost him something. The second man is quiet because speaking would change nothing he actually cares about. That distinction matters because you can perform silence, but you cannot perform containment. So what is the man who stops explaining actually doing? Is watching. That's not philosophical, that's mechanical. When you remove the noise of self-justification, your perception of the situation changes. You start seeing what's actually there. The man who's explaining can't see the room clearly. He is too busy managing what the room thinks of him. The man who stopped, he is not managing anything. So he sees. He sees who withdraws when he stops performing. He sees who stays. He sees which relationship requires him to continue self-explaining for it to exist. Most of them did. That's what the clarity showed him. And that's what's uncomfortable about this. It's not what he gained, but what he had to see. The reason men who stop explaining have already won isn't because they learned something new. It's that they stopped distorting what was already there. Every explanation was a lens they held up to the situation and adjusted until it looked acceptable. When the lens goes, the situation remains. Some men see that and put the lens back. Most do.